Good morning everyone and welcome to the show. Fernando.
Welcome to the show.
Today we have a Nissan Xterra in for a new radio. Now a lot of you guys do that, meaning you put new radios in your cars. And we get asked tons of questions about where do I find this part, what dash kit, what radio. I go here and they say it doesn't fit. We've done a couple of these and we'll do a couple more where we kind of take you through the steps in order to figure out, one, where to go to find the parts for your car, and then two, making decisions and stuff like that. Before we get any further, let's roll the intro. One of the biggest factors in deciding what radio to go with always comes down to the number one thing. And you know what that is, Fernando?
No.
Price.
Ooh.
How much money do you want to spend to upgrade your vehicle? For example, this Nissan Xterra is a 2005. It's a 15-year-old vehicle, which by today's standards really doesn't mean much because people are keeping their cars definitely for a lot longer. Plus, it's an Xterra. It was a fun vehicle. It's a cool little SUV. It has this cool roof rack on it. It looks real rugged. And honestly, this one's in really good shape, so there's no reason to get rid of it and replace it with something new. But it doesn't have that radio. Nowadays, one of the biggest features is phone integration, either via Bluetooth, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. That's what people want, and this 2005 definitely did not have it. First step, figuring out how much money do I want to spend on this. Where this gets confusing is, and this is how you should do it, figure out your total budget. For example, let's say you have $500 to put a new radio in the vehicle. Figure out what that $500 has to include. And I like to reverse this out a little bit, meaning I need to figure out my dash kit, wiring harness, and antenna adapter expense, any USB retention, backup camera, anything like that. I need to know that expense first. Those are the constants, meaning they're not going to change. The dash kit costs what it costs. There's really not a ton of different ones, like you have Metra and you have Best Kits, but they're about the same price. But before we can figure out how much they cost, we need to know where to go to get them. And I'm just kind of giving you a clue, but let's head over to the laptop and I'll show you. We want to go to a couple different sites. The first one, pack-audio.com. We select our make, Nissan, our model, Xterra, and our year, 2005, and then search. As we scroll down, radio replacement interface, this is for Bose, we don't have that. Steering wheel control adapters if needed. Our car has controls, but not for the radio, that's important. While we're in here, we'll also check, this one does not have Bose, clearly doesn't have a backup camera, and there is, according to this, no satellite radio installed. Moving on, dash kit. Do we want to do a single DIN or a double DIN? Definitely want to do a double DIN. For this, the BK-NDK 730 would be something we'd be interested in. Then we have a harness we're going to need, which is the BHA 7550. This is a BHO, which means this plugs into the factory harness. We don't need that. And we know we don't have a factory amplified stereo. That means we want this one. It could possibly need an antenna adapter, so we'll add that into the expense of our installation, but we'll double check once we get the radio out of the dash. And those are the three basic pieces we'll need for this car. Now, this isn't the only website we're going to try. We'll head over to the next one, which is metraonline.com. This one will ask for the year first, then make, then model. This one will ask for a submodel, which is helpful sometimes. Get parts, scroll down. First thing up are there again the same style dash kit. The antenna adapter, radio harness. This is 7550, which is universal. Replace into the factory radio, we don't need that. If it has factory Bluetooth, there's no steering wheel control, so we don't need to worry about that one. And the same three parts made by different manufacturer. The third website I go to is the idatalink.com to see if there's a Maestro harness available for it. Two things why I'm not going to do that. One, this radio isn't RR compatible, which isn't the end of the world. You can still use an RR harness in a car that requires a smart harness. The only thing you'll lose is those on-screen features like tire pressure and engine reset, doors being open. But we don't need a smart harness for this car, so there's no reason to go on to that web page to see if they list anything for this car. If you have a car that requires a smart harness, they do make great smart harnesses, and their steering wheel controls are some of the easiest to use, so it's worth going going off to that website just to check and see if you can use one of their harnesses. But that's something to think about in the price of the radio. That's why we're doing this first. Let's say this was a GM or a Ford that requires a smart harness. Going to their site and seeing what's available for you can afford. Sometimes you can't get tire pressure, it just says low tire. With an RR harness, it'll tell you which tire is actually low. That's pretty cool. That's definitely an upgrade to the vehicle, and it would be worth buying that harness for. For this install, we've opted to go with what we stock, which is the best kits parts, the BK NDK 730, the BAA 9 antenna adapter, and the BHA 7550 wiring harness. Opening the bag for the kit will give us the instructions. No matter whose instructions they are, whether it's one of the other two brands or this one, they do give you instructions on how to take the dash out. Now, if you're a visual guy and you like to see specifically step by step, Metra offers amazing how-to instructions as far as visually. They give you part by part pictures in order to take the dash apart, whereas Best Kits just gives you this area here, which is a brief tutorial, meaning you got to read it and figure out how to do it. But let's hop into the car and we'll show you how to do it. We always try to give you as much information about a car as possible, and in this case, even though this video is more geared around the process more so than the car, I have to talk about these particular dashes. Now, whether it's the Xterra, it's the Pathfinder, or it's the hard body pickup truck, these dashes, anything that looks like this, is a nightmare to get out because they have turned into eggshells. They're 15 years old, they're very delicate. The first thing you have to do is remove this guy right here in order to get one screw out right here. Depending on the year, there's sometimes a screw here and a screw here that's holding the radio, but there's also a clip here and a clip here. The problem with these two clips is that they're on these giant plastic pieces that are mounted somewhere up in this area, and what happens is as you're pulling this out, this explodes. Down here, there's also two more metal clips that will scratch the crap out of the bottom of the dash here if you're not careful. And knowing all that, are you ready?
Let's go.
I like to start with the metal pry tool to get up into this area here. I also will go along this to see if there's any sticky goo that has been accumulated, such as Armor All or dash cleaner of any kind. Just kind of like run through here easily just to break any of that up. As you can see, I'm getting all kinds of just black crap, yay. Once I've done that, this lip here is where I want to start just to kind of get going. Now the clips are on the side here and here, so once I get one corner up, I can kind of move over to these. Now I only need to get it up enough to get that one screw out, and that's it. If the one clip like in this back corner doesn't feel like giving up, we're good enough. We can just reach in there with a drill, can pull that one screw out. We can also look to see those two screws buried up in here. These are not part of the dash kit. If this radio manages to come out, meaning these clips come with the dash, which we're hoping they do, I strongly recommend not replacing this screw because there's no reason to pull this back apart if that screw's not there, which will save you the headache of running the risk of breaking it. For this, start in the back of the dash, do the same thing, just kind of and pray. It's the easiest way to do it. We'll snap this back down into place. Now on the bottom, just kind of grab in the middle a little bit, right here where the air conditioner is. Don't pinch too hard and just pull out straight. This helps to have two people so you can hold it away from the dash. Nissan is one of the cars that if you disconnect the airbag light and turn the car back on, you will get an airbag warning. What we like to do is unscrew the airbag light from the dash kit and plug it back in until you're done. The airbag is this guy right here. It uses a small Torx. Get this guy out, it's just the 4 screws across the top and bottom. On this particular vehicle, this bar right here serves no purpose whatsoever. If you're doing something that involves a lot of RCAs, amplifiers and stuff like that, I suggest cutting this bar here and getting it out of the way so that it makes it easier to get in and out the radio instead of having to tuck and run the risk of pinching wires and doing things like that. This is what the airbag light looks like. Plug it back in. Once the radio is out of the dash, the first thing you want to look at is the harness. Make sure it looks like the harness that we've been looking at on the internet. These wires here will match that BHO or that 71 harness we were looking at, and this will match the harness that we're going to be using for installation. If you're looking at the internet and you're like, I don't know which one to get, take the radio out first. You you can download the dash kit instructions and pull this out and take a picture of the harnesses. That way you can then go on and look to see which ones match. If you're going into a shop, take the radio out of the dash and take the radio in with you and say, I need the harnesses that plug into here. We've also found out that this just has a standard antenna adapter on it, and we're not going to need the antenna interface. We can save money there. Once we have our part list in place, we can take that amount and deduct it from our total amount that we want to spend on our radio. Then we head over to touchy-feely radios, which unfortunately sometimes there's not a local place to do that on, so you have to hit the internet. Pick a brand you like, Pioneer, Kenwood, Alpine, Sony, you name it, there's a bunch of them, and start doing a little bit of research on which ones have features that you're interested in. But here's where it gets kind of fun. If you head over to a place like Pioneer, that gives you the ability to compare two radios to the next. That doesn't tell the whole story a lot of the time. Sometimes you'll find that they match identically. You could take the radio like we're putting in this car, which is the AVH221EX, and compare it to something like, I don't know, a 4500 NEX, and there'll be like 3 things that are different, and you'll be like, I don't know. And that's like, I don't know, $400 difference. Why? There's a reason for it. Usually it has to do with things like audio grade components, a faster processor, and these are all things that the manufacturers just don't put on their website, which is kind of dumb. When you're doing the research, if you're looking at something and you're like, why is it so much more for like 2 features? Realize that those features, yeah, sure, it might just be CarPlay or Android Auto, but it's still $200 more. Why? Well, chances are good it has to do on the back end side, like it has audio grade components in it, or it's a discrete output, meaning that there's an actual preamp section in the radio, which a lot of radios, believe it or not, don't have. Don't just shop features. Sometimes you have to shop price. Back to the price thing, if it's not in your price point, then obviously you're not going to get it. I don't know what his price point was on this. However, this was the radio that fit his budget, so let's take a look at it. This one comes with a remote control, which may be something he's interested in because it doesn't have steering wheel controls. It has USB, an instruction manual, and warranty card. This is it here. It's a 6.1-inch display with CD DVD player built into it. It comes with Bluetooth. The microphone is already being installed in the car. It has an aux input. It has 6 preamp outputs and a backup camera. This is a very reasonably priced radio. That means that this is not going to have the audio grade components in it and the higher end audio pack in it, but it does come with some of the basics features that Pioneers all come with, such as like a 13-band EQ, crossovers, subwoofer volume control, and of course that ever wanted backup camera option. But it's only a backup camera, it doesn't have a front camera. If he was deciding to use this to build, let's say, a bigger system, we would have wanted him to upgrade into one of the higher end radios to get him that higher grade audio pack, because it will sound better. The more money you spend on that, the better it sounds. Alright, we got sound. The last thing you want to do anytime you're putting a radio in, whether it's yours, the cousins, the friends, your customers, is set the date and color of the radio. Now, seeing how we're talking about color and display, this is another big topic that you guys often ask us about. You'll go out and you'll buy a radio like this, and the first thing you'll ask is, how do I add a custom display to it? And when we were talking about options that don't seem like a big deal at the time, one of those is the ability to add in custom displays and or custom boot screens. Those are typically options as you spend more money. This radio has none of them. The next up from this gives you the option to change the display in the background, and the next one up from that allows you to change the boot screen. If you have a Nissan and you want to make sure your dash has a Nissan logo in it, make sure you check the radio you're looking to buy and see that that is a feature that it has. Those are important things. Alright guys, well, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If there's a feature that we didn't talk about or you think we might have missed, or just leave it in comments down below, and it might be a future video that we make just to cover those points. Sound like a good idea, Fernando?
Great idea.
I figured it would. This is just one of those helpful, like, hey, think about this when you're going to buy a radio. We hope you enjoyed this as always. Fernando.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a wonderful night as always. We'll talk to you later next time.
Bye.
Bye. Today we have, is this an Xterra?